81 Newgate Street is just north of St Paul's and Paternoster Square in the heart of the City of London. It previously was the GPO, the General Post Office HQ, and then British Telecom's HQ, built in the very early 80s. Because we're very near to St Paul's, there are lots of restrictions in terms of changing the bulk and the massing of the building. So we immediately thought it might be sensible to look at a reuse of the structure, because we knew that it couldn't be a very, very big change in the height of the site. And so we began to evolve a story about reusing the structure and reusing the stone, because we knew we needed to remodel the building. The one thing that the building did do is it contravened something called the St Paul's Heights, which create really nice vistas of the dome and the drum of St Paul's from various parts of the city. So we voluntarily took the front of the building down so that we could remodel the building to comply with St Paul's Heights, but that also gave us the opportunity to remodel the architecture of the building rather than keep with the bunker-like massing that was there before. In deciding how we wanted to change the building, the first is sort of prosaic, for instance, new cores, new stairs and things, so we knew we could rely on them and knew they were up to today's codes. We placed those inside of that atrium space. We then knew we wanted to create gardens and terraces as often as possible. So in remodelling the front, there are terraces at every level. That also helps break down the scale of the building. A big roof garden, so all of the mechanical plant is stacked at one end to the north end of the structure. So overall, we'll be able to use the majority of the footprint of the site as roof garden space for the enjoyment of people who are in the building. We then looked at reusing the embodied carbon of the basement of the superstructure as a huge advantage. It simplified the whole construction process. This is actually the building with the best carbon credentials that we have in London at the moment. The remodelling of the building to create the terraces, to break down the scale, to improve the context of St Paul's, meant that we needed either to find new stone to match the old stone, or actually we would take all the stone off the building and redistribute it and reposition it. We've only purchased 2 square metres of new granite for the project. The building itself was the quarry to find and reuse the stone. The stone will be consistent across the building. If we'd used some old and brought in some new, we were worried it would weather and look different in a very, very sensitive location. And then we also knew that the building needed to be as new in terms of the envelope and its performance. So by removing the stone, putting on a new window wall with weather tightness and insulation, and then replacing the stone on the building meant that we had a newly performing building using all of the existing stone. There are 2 aspects to what's the future of the workplace. First of all, who's working there? So it's very easy to subdivide plaster wall miners quite a lot, so there's a lot more flexibility and attention given to how you can sublet corners and divide the floor plates up. On the other hand, the city want to make sure that they're no longer closed bastions that are exclusionary. They want accessible buildings and buildings that are contributing to a life in the city which is not only during the working day but in the evenings and at the weekends. So we have a route through the building. So this will be on the Cultural Mile route from the Tate Modern across the Thames to St Paul's, Paternoster Square, this building, and then the Museum of London. And so the building can be accessed and become part or contribute to the wider activity of the city. So the idea is an active place, a flexible place, it's not dictating one solution, and an affordable place.